Hey friends, thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Success Factor. I'm your host, Trent Christensen. In this episode, I get to interview Dave Noll. Actually, it was kind of fun because I didn't realize, but he and I were riding the same train from northern New Jersey into Midtown Manhattan every day. And he was only 2 stops away from me, and we put 2 and 2 together, and we both looked familiar, and we honestly probably sat next to each other on the train a couple times and didn't even know it. But we figured this out when we started talking. He's an amazing individual. He actually is the creator of the TV series that is Chopped. And he now gets to go and create all kinds of TV shows and pitches them to various networks. He's got a lot of connections in the film industry, the TV industry. He's got a lot of efforts that he puts forth, some of which don't really make it. It was amazing to hear that he's got to pitch hundreds of times before something actually gets a yes. And so he had a lot of insight and just a lot of overall wisdom to share in terms of what it takes to get something done. And you can't take no for an answer. He was really easy to talk to, very friendly. He had a lot of good insights that and something that you can relate to and I can relate to, because life does not give you yeses right away. It doesn't give you yeses on the first try. And in his case, he has to do hundreds of no's before he can get a yes. And so it was a good interview. I hope you enjoy it. I enjoyed it. He's a great individual. Without further ado, check out Dave. Oh, Dave Noll, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I can't complain. No one
How?
listens. Yeah.
Wait,
so
is that Mickey Mouse behind you? Do we both have Mickey Mouse behind us?
That's funny. That is Mickey Mouse.
That's nice. It's a theme.
Yeah, it is a theme, and I love it. It's the Prado. I forgot which artist rendering it is, but he did a whole line of all the characters.
Oh, cool.
I forgot which artist it was, but I liked it a lot. So I got him and I got Pluto. And yeah, I like it.
Cool. That's
I'm
really
from
cool.
Southern California, so I grew up going to Disneyland.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I am a huge, ridiculous fan. I have the Enchanted Tiki Room sign over here. I have an old gold Mickey over there. I have the map from 1956, the Disneyland map from 1956. Well, my dad, my grandmother took my dad and my aunt, and they kept the map. The park had only been going a year, and so it's this framed gigantic map over there on the wall. So when I walk upstairs every day, it's kind of the first thing I see.
That's cool, man. I really like that.
Inspirational.
It is inspirational. And I like the tiki sign because that's, my sister and brother love going to tiki bars because of the tiki lounge in Disneyland. And there's even Trader Sam's in downtown Disney in California. Ooh, I like it.
So my wife got me that custom sign.
Do you have tiki cups over there?
Yes. Yeah.
So you're a tiki drink connoisseur. I like it.
There we go.
Nice. That is and it's funny because
great.
you can only get these tiki cups. Like some of them are one of a kind and they're expensive to make. And so you got to get your hands on them and keep them.
My brother lives in Southern California. He's an actor and has behind his garage his own tiki bar. Because it's this very long plot of land. So there's the house, backyard, driveway with the garage. And then behind the garage, there's more. And he was like, it started because he put his hammock back there basically to escape his wife.
There's a story there, I can tell. Don't get yourself in trouble, Dave.
I know. And so, wait, that's not part of the show, is it?
We recorded the moment you joined.
Cut that part out. No, to escape. Did I say wife? I meant life. And
that's right.
And so he put the hammock back there, and then it became like a tiki bar. I don't even know how it started, but now it's this like massive, like gigantic thing behind his house.
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool. There's the tiki bar what I've seen is more and more tiki bars popping up, and they are pretty popular. The good ones make their own cups too, and you got to go and get these unique cups because they're one of a kind. Even at Trader Sam's at Downtown Disney has those same one of a kind cups.
He loves Trader Sam's. Loves. It's his favorite place in the world. And it's great because now every year we know what to get him, you know, for his birthday.
That's
I wish
awesome.
I could find a pic.
You mentioned your brother is a actor in California. Who's your brother?
Chris Wilde is my brother. He at one point had his own show on Comedy Central, the Chris Wilde Show. He's been on Young Sheldon. He's the comic book shop owner on Young Sheldon, and been in just a ton of movies, like Netflix movies, and he was in Space Cowboys. He was in Coyote Ugly. So he's crazy talented and been banging around for years, and now does a ton of voiceover stuff. So he's the voice of Bob's Furniture, which you might not have.
Well, it's funny you say that. Well, and we need to talk about New Jersey because we were pretty much neighbors and didn't know it until recently.
Oh, I totally forgot that.
And I lived in Chatham, right? And
it's crazy.
Where did you get on the train?
Maplewood, 2 stops later.
That's crazy to me. So I recognized you, and you kind of recognized me, and I think we probably sat next to each other, or at least saw each other on the train. I
guarantee, like as soon as we started talking, I was like, oh, this guy looks familiar. And I felt like, I was like, wait, did you live in Maplewood or you know what I'm saying? Like there was some sort of thing. And then as soon as you said I was in Chatham, I was like, oh, same train.
I love this informal conversation because it's very relatable, you know? And the Bob's Furniture, right. The Bob's Furniture got me going because I bought my leather sofa from Bob's Furniture, and that's what you said, right? Bob's Furniture.
Yes. Okay. Everyone on both coasts should immediately go to Bob's Furniture and buy all of their goods there. So Chris is the voice of Bob, of Little Bob, my brother, and so
that's pretty cool.
There's commercials here constantly, just constantly. If you're watching sports, if you're watching Good Morning America, if you're watching the Today Show, if you're watching the news, if you're watching Survivor. If you're whatever you're watching, Wheel of Fortune, all of a sudden, my brother comes on. One of the weirdest moments was I was in Barnes and Noble. I don't know what I was doing. Came out to the car and I had left, the radio on like you do, whatever. And I turned the car on and my brother was talking to me and I started talking back to him thinking that it was on my phone. You know what I'm saying? Like I thought he had called me and I had inadvertently picked up. And it wasn't, it was him in the commercial on the radio. So he's on the radio all the time. He's on TV all the time. It's amazing.
That's actually really funny. That's what happens when you got a famous brother that's acting.
I know, it's ridiculous.
You're famous yourself, so Dave. I mean, he's probably like watching Chopped and watching these other shows going, yep, that's my brother. It wouldn't have happened without him.
He is more famous though. He's like,
Yeah. I don't know, Dave. I think Chopped is, I mean, you're a 2-time Emmy winner yourself.
Yes.
So that gives you huge street cred, industry cred.
I guess.
And you have them on on display behind you, right?
When you win the second one, you're basically like, wait, do they just give these? Is it like, do they give them out like free pens? There must be an explanation for this.
Free mints.
But then I won 2, and then I haven't won since. So maybe it is hard.
Maybe your brother put a good plug in for you, a good voiceover plug.
It's possible. It's possible.
So how's your book coming along? The
book
Visionary in Charge
is called The Visionary in Charge. It is for creatives and entrepreneurs. It is for anyone who wants to have an idea for a brand, an idea for a company, an idea and they want it to be a big hit. And so it's The Visionary in Charge is all about creating successful brands, selling successful brands, and building successful brands.
Excellent. I love it. When is it going to hit the shelves, or?
It's with the line editor now, like the line by line editor. You can tell it's my first book. I don't even know what these people do, but there was an editor who helped me and the publisher who helped me with the content. Now it's with the final edit. And I think this is just like, spelling mistakes and punctuation and stuff and consistency, they keep saying. And then we'll come up with a date. I don't know when it's going to come out. I'm hoping November. I'm manifesting November.
Okay. I like it.
But I could be wrong.
You're committed now because all the guests are going to get excited, right?
Oh my gosh. Literally. So it's not only stories for me creating Chopped, we have this big game show called America Says. Not only stories, I've worked over the years with billionaire Barry Diller, who's amazing. Those are probably the best stories in the book. He's unbelievable. But I've worked with Celine Dion and Tom Cruise and chef Marcus Samuelson and Roy Disney, Walt's nephew. Yeah. We did a special together once. And so all of those stories are in there, but then also my favorite stories ever from people like Walt Disney and Oprah Winfrey and Shonda Rhimes and Stephen King. Because what I realized when I was compiling all these stories, basically I had this kind of brainstorm of, you have all these crazy stories, you should share them with people. And so if there's someone out there who's going to create a television show or going to do anything creative, engage in any kind of creative endeavor, maybe they can learn from this. And so I started compiling all of my stories on these colorful note cards. And then I was like, I am, as you can see behind me, I have a bunch of books. I have another nook over there. And then I had a ton of magazines, Premiere magazines, varieties, Empire, Hollywood Reporter, Entertainment Weekly, old time TV guides. And I have my favorite stories earmarked. And then so I went through all these stories and added a whole bunch of Post-it notes. And that's how I compiled this book. So it's basically, as I say, it's for creatives or entrepreneurs really of any kind, anyone who wants to create a massive brand. And along the way, you learn from people like Walt and Oprah and Stephen King. And then, as I say, and then my own crazy stories.
Yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait to check it out. Are you doing the audio version as well?
I can't. This is almost why I want the date, because I want to start recording the audio version as soon as possible. I'm so excited.
You're excited to do that much speaking?
Yes. Yes. Because a lot of these stories, especially mine, a lot of my stories are, moments in my life that didn't go the way I expected. Sometimes I looked like a complete moron. Sometimes I failed enormously. And I'm for some reason really excited to tell those stories and laugh at myself on a recording. I don't know why, but I'm very excited about it. And then tell the great stories as well. There's great stories too.
That's pretty fun.
But so much of television is rejection. So much of it in theory is pain. It's painful. Yeah. We did this mathematical equation very, very early on where we looked at, I'm going to probably mess up the numbers, but we looked at how many pitches you would need to get a show, to get any deal. How many pitches would you need to do? And the great Brandon Tartikoff, who ran NBC, he has now passed away, but he ran NBC in that kind of era of Cheers and Night Court and LA Law and Hill Street Blues. He was a television genius. And he basically said, you have to pitch 30 times, even the best show, even if you're pitching Survivor, which they did basically have to pitch 30 times. If you're pitching Friends, which they did basically have to pitch 30 times. If you're pitching Stranger Things, which they did basically have to pitch 30 times. I don't know the exact numbers, but he said you have to pitch 30 times any show, because even if it's the best show ever, you're going to get someone who doesn't get it. You're going to get someone who doesn't have any money. Like we don't have any money left, but we can't tell you that. And my job is to take pictures. So I'm just going to keep taking pictures. Or you get people where they don't have the time slot. They don't, for whatever reason. So he said, you're going to need to pitch anything 30 times, and it has to be great all 30 times. So we're like, okay, so we're going to need to pitch 30 times really well for one deal. And then we went and we asked producers and network executives, out of every deal you get, how many shows actually make it to television? And it really does. It's comical. To this day, it's basically 1 in 4. Every 4 deals that you get, 3 of them die along the way, and 1 goes to series.
That's crazy. That is crazy. What are the deciding factors? Right? Yeah, that's insane.
So you're like, okay, in order to get a show on the air, I need to pitch 120 times, right? That's the math. But then we went further. And we went again to other production companies, and we went to executives, and we said, of every television show that makes air, how many are actual hits? How many become hit television series? And we kind of define that as 3 seasons, because so many shows get a second season for some weird reason. That is a fairly common thing. Oh, you get the second season. They need another show. It's not doing that well, but let's try it again. Let's tweak it a little and try it one more time. So we said, how many out of every show that airs? And it was 1 out of 8. So if you do that math, it's all coming back to me now. I think it's 960 pitches to get 1 hit show. And that is, like anything in life, there's good and the bad with that. Because on the one hand, you're like, that seems like a lot, Dave Noll. How am I going to pitch 960 times? And it doesn't count if it's a bad pitch. It has to be a great pitch 960 times. But on the other hand, what's great about that is if I'm going to basically have to pitch 960 times to get to that hit show, then every time anyone passes, it doesn't feel like a failure. It feels like a step forward. I have to get to 960. So from very early on in this gig, we were every time anybody passed, we would laugh. Even when and sometimes in television, the passes are insulting, or they're negative, or they're mean-spirited, or they're, awkward. They don't want to pass, and then they finally do, and it takes forever, and you've done all this work. But every time we got a pass, we would joke. It was like, okay, that's one more step. That's one more step. We need it. Pass. Yeah. Good. Almost, like strikeouts, right? Like any baseball player, you got to strike it. Like you're not going to just hit a home run every time. And when we were pitching in 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we had no show really that anyone had ever heard of. And then eventually Chopped came along, and it was around pitch number 880. So we were pretty close. And then again, to get from Chopped to America Says, which premiered in 2018, it was probably about another 960 pitches. That is just the math behind television. You need to fail that many times.
I can't believe it. That is actually insane.
It's insane. And
it is actually. It's
people.
Who do you pitch to that many times? Is there that many investors, networks? Like who is saying no that many times?
The way I look at it is there's basically always 40 buyers. There's always been 40 buyers. Sometimes somewhere between 30 and 40. Sometimes there's a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more. But if you think about it, right? Like back in the day, there was E and MTV and VH1 and CMT and Nickelodeon and Comedy Central, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, Discovery, TLC. Now you know, some of those have fallen away. Some of our buyers have just, they don't exist anymore. Now you have Netflix and you have Disney Plus and you have Peacock and Paramount Plus and Amazon and Apple, but you still have ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox. You still have Nat Geo. You still have MTV. You still have Bravo. There's buyers that exist. So that's basically who you're pitching. But obviously, you know, to get these meetings isn't easy. So yeah. You have to work hard to get the meeting. They have to want that pitch. They have to, you know, want that nugget of an idea. And then they're going to say, oh yeah, I'll take the time. You know, Dave Noll and Cleve Keller, my partner is Cleve Keller. Cleve and Dave have this new show. Yeah, I'll take the time for that. So it's not easy. And then the other really crazy difficult thing is, and I kind of find it hilarious, is we're pitching now our competition. It used to just be production companies. It used to be things, you know, like there's these global companies, Fremantle and Endemol and all of the Cineflix, all these big kind of global boat rocker companies. Now you're pitching against The Rock. Like there's days where The Rock pitches a show and then I pitch a show. Or Kevin Hart has a production company. He'll pitch a show. Reese Witherspoon, Drew Barrymore. There's all these new ones coming. LeBron James, every athlete now thinks Peyton Manning. They want to create the next hit show. They want to create the next Survivor, the next Family Feud, the next
so it
America's Got Talent.
It begs the question. What are the criterias that determine if something is going to pass or not? What are people looking for, and what constitutes something that's worthwhile?
The way I see it is, and it, like what I've been saying for years and years now, is the thing that usually sells, almost always, not only for us but for other people, is something that is rooted in some other hit, but has then one very unique twist to it. And if you think about it in business terms, you need that, you know, no matter what you're pitching, a company, whatever it is, you have to get everyone on the same page. Certainly viewers need to be able to understand this show, but definitely the network executives, the marketing department, the sales team, everyone needs to have this same vision for this show, right? And so it makes sense that you'd have to root that in something that everyone kind of understands. And then one new thing that's highly promotable. So my favorite example is in 2004, Lost came out. Remember the TV show Lost?
Yeah.
And writers and the producers, they all said, this is like nothing you've ever seen before, right? This is a drama like you've never seen before. There's this very large, diverse cast. It's this prime time ABC network television show where all these people are stranded on this island, and no one's seen anything like it before. And that is true. There had never been a show like Lost. It was so sprawling and so big, except if you think about this, 4 years before, there was a very big hit show with a sprawling cast that was a primetime network series, except it was on CBS. And it was a giant hit with a diverse cast. It had a white male lead, about 35, 36 with brown hair. That first season had, it almost looks exactly the same. But in 2004, that was called Lost. And in 2000, it was Survivor. And so that's the perfect example of like, when you're going to pitch Lost, you can say, you know, Survivor, well, instead of the reality show, we're going to do the drama. We're going to do the dramatic version. And we laugh because it's like, how close were those two shows? Survivor, that lead was Jeff. That's a 4-letter word that starts with a J. And in Lost, it's Jack. That's a 4-letter word that starts with J. It's the same guy. They like the lead is even the same guy.
See, that's crazy to me. Like, why recycle the same type of or similar type of shows? Why not? I mean, first of all, how do you know what the audience wants? How do you know what they're looking for? Do you ever use analytics or data points to be able to tell, hey, this will work with the audience, this won't, because the audience, and do you look at trends? Does that help make these and influence these decisions?
I mean, we are constantly looking at trends, and that's how we're pitching, because it's a way to sell a show. Oh, this trend is happening. No one's tackled this yet. And we just sold a show the other day. And that was the pitch. It was, this trend is happening, and here's what we're going to do with it. And then networks are forever doing analytics. But Cleve and I worked for, I call him media titan or media legend, Barry Diller. Diller is one of the smartest people in the history of television. He started the Fox network, and everyone said it couldn't be done. At that point, there was ABC, NBC, CBS. And then Diller came in and actually he greenlit Tracy Ullman and Married with Children and Beverly Hills 90210 and The Simpsons. Like, he built this. That's how smart the guy is. He ran Paramount at one point. He ran ABC at one point. And now he is a billionaire and owns all of these tech companies. He is a tech billionaire as well. But he basically said, we went in once and we were talking. So we worked with him for 4 years. And at one point we went into this gigantic, scary conference room. And we were talking about analytics, and we were saying, this network wants this. They say this, and they want this demographic and this psychographic and this age range, all this stuff. And he was like, you know what they effing want? He cursed a lot. He's like, they effing want a hit show. That's what they want. They can analyze till the cows, but he was, and then he'd go through and he'd list. He's like, did anyone think they wanted Seinfeld? No. When Seinfeld, there was no analytics that said, we want this show about this Jewish comedian guy. That didn't happen. Did anyone think they wanted anything? Survivor? No, there was no analytics to point to that. And that's what makes my job so fun and crazy and unique. You have to get executives to get on board with the dream. I mean, literally, it's just Cleve and I imagine these shows, and Diller really hammered into us. He's at one point he said, look, don't pitch me any show. I don't want to hear don't pitch me anything. I'd rather not hear an idea from you people unless you see a clear, concise path to over $100 million globally. Don't pitch me a show where we're going to make 10 million or 20. That's nothing to me. He said it was an effing lemonade stand.
So he's a huge visionary. He thinks big.
I mean, like there was one very early on, 6 months in, so usually in television, you get a development deal, you get a pilot. Very early on, we created the show. It was brilliant. And we thought of ourselves as big thinkers, right? And so we had this big idea in our head. We pitched it to a network. First we pitched it to a talent who was great, perfect for it, and their agent. They signed on. Then we went and pitched it to a network. They went right to 10 episodes, 8 episodes. They went right to 8 episodes at $600,000 an episode, 4.8 million. I think that's what that is. We were like thrilled. We thought we were amazing, right? Big thinkers.
Yeah.
Going in to Barry Diller saying, this is a major network. We don't have a development deal. We don't have a pilot. We're going right to series. I'm awesome.
You're on cloud nine and you're thinking this guy's going to love me.
My wife that morning was like, you are dressed extremely well. And I was like, I am, because I'm about to go in and just kick the SHIT out of this entire room. They're going to carry me out. Barry Diller and his team of lawyers are going to and celebrate. And I did the whole presentation. It was an amazing presentation. And I can still hear, there was a gold binder clip that bound the presentation. He slid the thing across this amazing, gigantic conference table. And I can still hear the binder clip sliding towards me. And he said, it's an effing lemonade stand. And I was like, come again?
You're like,
I'm sorry.
wait a minute, hold on. This is 5 million. It's
maybe
like,
you didn't hear. And so literally I went up that day. We had this gigantic conference room or development space that they gave us. Enormous. Like, I still can't believe. And we had this enormous whiteboard, and there was like 86 shows on this whiteboard. And in that moment, I got it. I basically, at one point he said, it takes just as much. It's so hard to get any show on the air. It takes just as much work for you to get a tiny little $1 million show that it takes just as much work to get $100 million show. So why are we doing? And so I went back that day. Cleve was there, and she was like, how was it? Was it amazing? And I said, actually, it was terrible, and it was embarrassing. And I crossed off every single show except for 8. There were 8 shows left. Went from 86 down to 78. But he did an interesting thing. He embarrassed me publicly in front of the smartest people I've ever worked with. And then he said, he lifted us up in a very weird way. Like, I felt literally a gut punch, depression. And then he said, you and Cleve can do something very unique, and you don't realize it. Let me point it out to you. I mean, and then, because he's like, because you're being so stupid. He's like, you and Cleve Keller have the ability, and this is why I hired you. This is why I chose to hire you. You have the ability to create the next Wheel of Fortune. That's $1 billion brand at this point. You have the ability to create the next Survivor, the next Big Brother, the next America's Got Talent, the next Family Feud. These are $100 million or $1 billion brands. That's why you're here. You're not here to get 8 episodes. What are you talking about? That's not your job, sir. You are an idiot. But then he said, you have this ability. You can do this. And that happened in, I'm guessing, right at the end of 2009. And we've changed the way we do everything ever since.
How do you do it now? And what did you and Clive do? I mean, did you start your own firm? Did you leave? And how are you today determining if something is a $100 million show or a $10 million show?
Well, I mean, first of all, we know now what has the potential to be a $100 million show. Because
how do you know that?
Because he put us on planes and we traveled around the world. And you learn about, you can see these shows. Like the Got Talent franchise is a monster. But there's also shows that we don't even know here. Like there was a show called Money Drop, gigantic hit around the world. It was on Fox here. I think it didn't do that well. There's a show called Come Dine With Me. Come Dine With Me was the biggest money-making television show in the world for like 3 or 4 years running. It was on here for like a couple months. It didn't make it, but it was on in every other country 5 nights a week, just minting money. And so he put us on planes and was like, I want you to pitch here. I want you to pitch in London. I want you to pitch in Scandinavia. I want you to pitch in Spain. I want you to pitch in France and Germany. I want you to meet all these people. I want you to learn from them. I want you to go to Canada. We sold multiple shows 2 shows into Japan. We sold shows into Canada, Germany, Spain, France, all of these places. And when you're doing that, when you're on those planes and meeting with all these producers, all these show creators, all these network executives from around the world, you start to learn, oh, okay, I get it. A massive cooking competition like Chopped or Master Chef is all over the world, or Top Chef. That is potentially worth hundreds of millions of dollars if it works, or if not billions. Game shows, Wheel of Fortune, Family Feud, a lot of stuff where your audience can be very big. Masked Singer, Idol, The Voice, where your audience can be very big. Men, women, old, young, black, white, anyone can watch Family Feud, right? Like Wheel of Fortune. That's what we're looking for. So that's our filter now. Whenever we pitch, whether we're pitching Netflix or Nat Geo or National Geographic or Fox or whoever we're pitching, our whole goal, whether it's their goal or not, is actually different, right?
Yeah.
They're just often TV executives are just trying to get a hit. Their goal is different. Our goal is always 100 episodes, 100, like at least 100 episodes, very clearly you can see a clear, concise path to over $100 million around the world.
So I think it's a convergence of your overall demographical appetite and who you're likely to hit and who's going to watch it from a demographics perspective. And if it's scalable, it's large and it's wide, then you're going to have a massive audience. And it sounds like you need scalability in terms of the creative approach to producing the show, the storyline or whatever, so that you could duplicate it. You could continue to scale it up for 100 plus episodes.
Absolutely.
Now you're talking $100 million show.
Quick. You get it. And then other networks, right? Other territories around the world. What you really want is a show that's scalable in that way, but also scalable because in the US we have all this money. There's less money in other places. So something like Wheel of Fortune, the budget's enormous. The set is enormous in the US. If it's enormous, it's mind-blowingly large. But if you go to other territories, the set is not, that much bigger than this room I'm sitting in now. There's a wheel and there's a board and they're not that far from it. The set in the US, the contestants are so far from the board. It's stunning. The set for Wheel of Fortune in other territories, sometimes very small. And so you need scalability in that way too.
Interesting. How do you know when you've got someone that is going to bite? When you're pitching, what indicators do you look for? Whether it's body language, verbal cues, nonverbal cues, anything. How do you know when someone is like, okay, this guy's digging it or this girl's digging it?
It's so weird because at this point you do kind of know, and we're not often wrong anymore. And yet every executive is different. And a lot of them are trained to be non-responsive. That's kind of how
like poker face.
An old school way of thinking that basically said, we don't want to let anyone know what we're thinking, so we're going to do a poker face. That made more sense ages, 10, 20 years ago. I think it makes less sense now, but whatever, it doesn't matter to me. But now I do feel like we had a pitch a couple of weeks ago, 2 months ago now, where we got off the pitch and Cleve and I were both like, oh, that went well. We had pitched these women before, and you could just see the light in their eyes. And it looks like now we're going to get that deal. It works. You kind of just have a sixth sense now for, when, cause then it also happens in TV is this other phenomenon where they're just telling you how great you are.
Yeah. And like they're building you up.
Yeah. Like, oh my God, this is so great. I've never heard of it. And then there's a point where you're like, oh, that's just the way they talk. Yeah. That's just the way they talk.
Do you think it's going to lead to a no at that point, or is it inconsistent and it could be a yes as well?
Like, I mean, to a certain extent, sometimes you never know TV is so crazy that anything can happen at any point in time. But we usually at this point can tell from a meeting, one meeting, is a person legitimately interested, or are they just, blowing smoke, right? Like it's a thing where they're just being nice. And then sometimes you can tell, oh, this person's interested. And then you can tell when when you're following up and saying, hey, I know that pitch was great. Do you need anything else? And then they're getting back to you. Yes, we're so excited. We're about to have another meeting here about it. And then it starts to get a little softer. And then you realize what happened, which is you pitched it to them. They then pitched it up. And somewhere along the way, someone wasn't as interested. And what's crazy about TV is most of the time, 90% of the time, you're not in the pitches at a higher level. They're pitching it without you. And it is kind of frustrating, right? Because I'm not a genius, but I've been pitching now for 20 years. I can I know the beats. I know what to hit. I know the lines to say to paint the picture in the right way and to paint the success of the potential franchise. And when you're not in the room, you can't do that. So your presentation has to do all the work, which is hard. It's hard to make a presentation as good as the creators of the show walking into the room.
Okay, that leads to my next question. What do you use to pitch? Is it a sample of reel, or is it all PowerPoint? Is it like, what kind of imagery or materials do you use to pitch? And then how do you lay it out? Like, do you talk numbers first or numbers last? Do you talk like the vision first and then work in the details? Like, walk me through that.
Well, it really does depend on the show. Some shows we've pitched with tape. So you've created a sizzle, you've created like a movie trailer, or you've created here's a scene of the show. We've done that in the past. Some shows it's a PowerPoint, and it's big, bold, colorful images that kind of set the scene for how you want the show to look and feel. When we're pitching a game show, so we have a very big game show on the Game Show Network. It premiered in 2018, and it's now over 500 episodes. We went in to the Game Show Network and played the game. We said, bring some interns, some executives, whoever wants to play it, we'll play. I'll host, and we'll play this game. And we pitched it on January 25th, 2018. They picked it up January 26th, the very next day, for 65 episodes.
Wow, that's America Says.
That's how good I was that day. Yes. Wow, yeah, that was America Says.
You must have woke up on the right side of the bed, got your Starbucks, and you might have the night before had a good tiki drink. The stars aligned for you.
It was amazing. And it was crazy because I was on the plane. So, it was in LA. I was flying back to Jersey. Go Jersey. And
no, it's Jersey. I was flying back to Jersey.
Hey.
Over by the Brooklyn Bridge. I was in Jersey.
And that was when there was no internet on the plane, right?
So you had no clue.
There's no Wi-Fi. And I landed. As I recall, I was trying to get home for dinner. So it was probably like, 5:00 Jersey time. And my phone was like, ding, 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 like it was like a slot machine. It was crazy. And I was like, either something has gone very wrong or something has gone very right. I get a lot of texts and emails, but I don't get this much. And it was Cleve. She was flying on Saturday. She had stayed there Friday. And it was Cleve, like, text after text. Game Show Network is calling me. I don't know what they want. Oh my God, I haven't connected. I just connected them. I'm on with Game Show Network right now. I think they want 65 episodes. That's what they said. Now it's the agent. The agent's on the phone. The agent's saying they really do want 65 episodes. They want it to premiere in June. Dave, we sold 65 episodes. So it was all these texts coming in, and it was a great moment. That was a great moment. But even then, by the way, that's a 1 in 8 shot, right? Remember what I said at the beginning? 7 out of 8 times that show kind of fails. It trickles out. It only goes to season 2, and they never see it again. That happened to be a hit. It right out of the gate, almost. It did very, very well. Yeah. And I mean, cool. Now they air it 60, 70 times a week.
That's crazy. That is really, what's the budget for that per episode?
I guess I'm not allowed to say that, but
less
it's
than $1
good.
million? Yeah. Okay. Hey, so how now?
It is definitely less than $1 million. You'd be able to tell that by watching it. It is a big, giant game show set. But the reason why game shows work so well is you can shoot 6 half-hour episodes in a day.
Back to
no
back,
editing.
yeah.
So the reason why TV is so expensive is because there's all this editing. There's all these, it takes,
camera operators. Yeah, you got all the production crew. You need to film a bunch in one day. Yeah, I get it.
Jeopardy,
economies of scale.
Wheel of Fortune, Family Feud, Price is Right, America Says. America Says we can basically shoot in 30 minutes. That's it. Like, teams come out. John Michael Higgins is brilliant. He hits his mark. He's amazing, and he's funny. And then you have a little bit of editing afterwards if somebody flubs a line or whatever. That's it. And it's like you can edit a whole episode in no time at all.
That's cool.
So 6 episodes in a day, that keeps costs way down.
Oh, totally.
But that's why they can order 500,
Yeah, massive economies of scale there. Mm-hmm. Now, okay, so another question, Dave. How do you make money on these shows?
In so many ways. No,
Are you royalties or what? Up front? Like, how do you...
you have a deal where it says you will make, as an executive producer, as the creator of the show, you will make X dollars per episode, or in the case of a game show like that, X dollars per strip of episodes, which means 5 episodes. As a production company, so Cleve and I we're show creators and producers. We do not run as a production company as much. Production companies are companies that have all the legal, all the production management, all the editing, all the edit rooms, the editors, everyone's on staff. We just want to create the next hit show. We don't want to do that. They make money in a different way. They will say, say the budget for a show is $500,000. They get $500,000. Where now they're going to try to make that show for $400,000 and keep the rest, or 420 or whatever it is. And so that's basically how it works. Sometimes you get bonuses. Sometimes you get other deals. When you're selling shows overseas, the reality is their system is a lot better. Cleve and I have created over 3,500 episodes of television. If we had done that in Scandinavia, we'd be worth, $100 million or something crazy like that.
Wow.
Because in those countries, the creators automatically get money. They automatically do every single episode, every single time. In the US, as you could probably imagine, everything is geared towards the success of the big companies. We're going to lose out to Disney and Paramount and CBS and Fox.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, yeah. Well, Disney owns 60% of all these companies anyways.
It's weird now. Warner Brothers owns a lot of them right now. They do. Warner Discovery owns Discovery, TLC, HBO, CNN, TBS, TNT, Food Network. They own a really big chunk.
Got it.
But
how do you handle the legalities? How do you protect your?
There's a lot of lawyers.
Well, how do you protect yourself from one of the networks just running with the show and doing it themselves?
There's a lot of lawyers and a lot of prayers.
What's the difference?
Lawyers you have to pay for. They're a lot more expensive. Prayers is just me here in my office. There's a lot of lawyers, prayers, and bourbon.
Ain't that the truth though? And sometimes you don't know the difference. All right, what am I paying? $1,000 for a bottle of bourbon, or is this an attorney hour?
And the unscripted television is still versus scripted has rules. There's a writers guild, there's a directors guild,
Yeah.
there's a guild for everything in scripted television. Songwriting has rules. Everything has rules. Unscripted TV really still doesn't have any rules. It's the Wild West.
Yeah. Where is TV going? I know reality TV has come. It has made its heyday. It's here to stay. There's a lot of different variations of reality TV.
Yep.
But now we got Netflix. Now we've got, Apple. You've got a lot of different shifts happening within these subscription programs. But where do you think and see the next 10 years of TV production and show and overall creative approach is going?
It's interesting because you think basically what's going to happen is it's going to become more modern and more like the old days at the same time. So modern in the way of right now, when you turn on Disney Plus, there's 5 pillars, right? There's Disney, Pixar, Star Wars, Marvel, National Geographic.
Yeah.
You're going to go to these networks, these streaming giants. You're going to go to whatever Warner Discovery. Right now they have HBO Max, HBO, they have Discovery Plus. In theory, that's all going to combine, and you're going to go to one place, and there's going to be 10 pillars. Paramount, you're going to go to one place, and there's going to be multiple pillars, just like Disney Plus, where it's Paramount's going to have MTV, Paramount, CBS, BET, a couple, Showtime. That's what they're going to have. Warner Discovery is going to have their main pillars. Disney's going to have their main pillars. And then there's going to be other places that may, Netflix might just be Netflix. Apple might just be Apple because they make money in so many different ways. Obviously, Amazon makes money, for them, programming is just an add-on. But basically you're going to go to these streaming giants. And when I say it's going to be closer to the old model as well, there's going to be multiple tiers. So Peacock does it now. Netflix is about to do it. I wouldn't be surprised if Disney is going to do it, where you could either pay, right now I think the Hulu package, where it's Hulu and Disney and ESPN, is $60 a month or something. So there's going to be these packages where you can pay a lot for no commercials, or there's going to be these packages where you pay very little, $4 a month, $5 a month, but you have to watch commercials. And so then we're back to the old days, which is so funny.
It's gone full circle. I was just going to say that. It feels like it's like we're going back to building cable, because pretty soon you're going to have one app that allows you to have access to everything. And it's going to be called like Comcast, the modern app, or, you're going to go to AT&T cable network services, and it's going to be an app, and it's going to have access to all the other apps out there. It's like a one fee for all the small fees. And now we're just rebuilding cable in the modern day.
It is, and it'll be slightly different, but that's kind of what it is.
That's interesting.
And when it comes, the great thing about programming and the great thing about what we do is, at the end of the day, there's going to be a chunk of people out there that like cop shows. It used to be One Adam 12, and then it was, whatever, Law and Order and Chips, and now, I don't know, True Detective, right? Like, there's going to be some version of a cop show, and there's going to be some version of a lawyer show. There's going to be some version of a medical show. There's going to be comedies. Like, comedies have obviously changed. I Love Lucy is different from, Ted Lasso, right? But Ted Lasso is a workplace comedy, really, just like Murphy Brown, just like Mary Tyler Moore. They're different, but I was actually watching an episode of Mary Tyler Moore the other day, and the vibe is kind of Ted Lasso. Like, the more things change in television, the more they stay the same.
I'll tell you,
always going to be a cooking competition, and game shows have been around since the beginning. So
game shows, cooking. There's always going to be nature shows too.
Exactly.
It sounds like nowadays there'll be a Survivor show or a Wild show, or Running Wild with Bear Grylls. There's going to be some type of outdoor wild survival show too. You know what we need, which is a gap. Now that post-pandemic has happened, and this may be a pitch, Dave, if you make money on this, I'm going to call my attorney, and I'm going to make sure I get 15%. But check it out. So people are working more remote now, right? So think of The Office. The Office was a great show. Great show. It's a classic. But we need a modern Office that has a spin on remote work connection, because we're constantly on Zoom. I'm full-time work at remote in my day job. So I'm connecting with all my team members, and my whole team is all remote. And so you could potentially have a comedy satire modern day version of The Office, where people are in different countries, in different situations, and you can have all these different sub storylines with each character. So the camera is watching their life while they also are working. And then you have the view from the other people observing them, tons of camera angles and storyline spinoffs.
I am positive that's happening now. I'm guaranteed that there's writers who have already pitched that, and there's pilots that are already in motion. Because one of the things you realize doing what Cleve and I do, or doing what drama writers or comedy writers do, is you're trying to pitch something in the zeitgeist, something that's very current, and yet you're trying to do it in a way that no one else is going to do it. And that seems so easy, but it's so hard. As I say, Cleve and I came upon this very zeitgeisty, very of the moment Gen Z thing that's happening. And we were recently able to create this kind of sizzly, fun, poppy show that looks like no other show should, in theory, if we do it right, look like no other show you've ever seen before. And that show sold. That's the perfect example of a zeitgeist moment. But I will say, in the pitch, we tied it really tightly to a couple existing hit shows. Where we said, it's going to be like this. that level of success, you can see it, right? But here's our twist. And the twist is big enough, as I say, like the difference between Survivor and Lost. That's a very big twist. Or the difference between American Idol and The Masked Singer. So much of those shows are exactly the same. The time slot, they're both on Fox. It's blue. The logos are similar. There's people singing. There's judges. So much of those shows are the same. But in the one, it's up and coming kids who want to be pop stars in one show. And then it's celebrities in giant furry costumes in another show. So one big landmark difference makes a show. That's how you sell a show. And as I say, you can see why. It's just so, you want to get the vision together for everyone. You want everyone's sales, marketing to see this vision. And so the easiest, best, most concrete way to do it is to say, think of this, right? Think of American Idol. Now imagine it in a way you've never imagined it before, which is there's celebrities competing. Okay, I've heard that, right? Celebrity American Idol, that's pitched. Right. And they're in gigantic, furry, colorful costumes. What? It's called The Masked Singer. That show sells. Like, that's how to sell a show. It's whoever, I don't know who created that. Brilliant. That's brilliant. And that's, you can see why that works. It works for movies too. This is Die Hard on a plane, it's Die Hard on a bus. Those get sold all the time.
That's crazy.
That's what we do.
So, okay, another question for you, and this is great. I love what you do. I think you have like the dream job. You're out pitching all these great shows, and you've got.
It's the dream job some days.
Well, isn't everything a dream job only a few days?
That's true.
Doesn't matter what your dream is and what you think your dream job is. There's only a few days where you realize it's a dream job, and the other days they suck.
There's moments of sheer like shock. And although I will say, when we started out, one of my biggest regrets, if not my biggest, is I just didn't enjoy it enough. I didn't realize, because you're constantly thinking about the big giant hit show, so you don't enjoy moments. I mean, we pitched a show with Serena Williams, and it was amazing just being in the room with her. And I was so focused on getting the show, which didn't sell crazy, that I didn't really enjoy it enough. And so now, over the course of the last, 5 years, 8 years, whatever it is, I've focused on, Dave Noll, no matter what, enjoy it. Enjoy this. You're doing a podcast. This is great. Enjoy it all. Enjoy every moment that you possibly can.
That's a really good factor to success. If you're living in the future and you're living in the past, you can't live in the present. And if you can't live in the present, you can't realize what you should be grateful for, and all the blessings you have, and the moments today that are helping you enjoy, learn, grow, and develop to create the future. You have to be able to live in the present. And you nailed it. Something else I was going to ask you, where do you get your ideas from? Because you and Clive aren't coming up with all these shows yourself, right? So how do you connect with other people that have ideas?
We come up with all of them ourselves.
That's what
we do. Yeah. There's other
100%. Like, you don't have 100%. People like Trent coming in on podcasts going, "Hey Dave, this would be a good show. Go pitch this."
I mean, I get pitched all the time, but we don't take pitches, because there are companies that, as I said, there's production companies, and they might have development teams, but they will take pitches. That's what they're doing. They're out looking wherever they can to find the next great idea, the next whatever, the next hit show. Cleve and I are those people. Cleve and I create the shows. So we are, again, like, and the way, how do we do it?
Yeah. How do you do it? Where do you get inspiration from?
Magazines, it's watching TV, it's watching movies, it's reading books. It's getting inspired by every single thing. We've created shows based on magazine articles. We've created shows based on commercials that we liked. Whatever inspires you and you think, oh, that's cool. That is a show that millions of people could watch.
That's pretty cool.
And when you hit it, it's fun.
It's like qualitative instead of quantitative. I like that you're not focusing on data and you're not focusing on the numbers and the trends per se, but you're looking at what, from a quality perspective, feels right, resonates with you, hits your energies, and you know when it's a good hit or a good idea. Forget the numbers, forget the data. You look at it purely.
And sometimes it is a title or a hook where you're just like, this is so good. How do we make the closest thing I've ever heard is when you hear pop songwriters like Paul McCartney talking about writing a song. And sometimes it comes from a lyric. You have one line of a lyric. Sometimes it comes from a chord. Sometimes you sit down and play the chorus. Sometimes songs take a year to write. Sometimes songs you write them in an hour. That's exactly the same thing. All those things. Sometimes we have a title and Cleve's like, what do you think of it? And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a hit show title. Now what's the show? Sometimes, as I say, it's a zeitgeist moment. My daughter, I have 3 kids. One of them will say something. I'll see something on TV. And so Cleve and I are doing it every single, texting each other constantly. What about this? What about this? What do you think about this? What about this? And the great thing about having the other person is Cleve will text and I'll just be like, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't get it. Sometimes she loves something so much. And then I'll be like, what do you like about it? Like not even in a negative, just being like, tell me what you like about it. And then I can help you because I'm seeing this, but clearly maybe there's something here. And then that has worked where it's like, oh, that's a show. That's it.
Interesting.
All right, now let's build the thing around it. And then sometimes she'll text me and I'll be like, oh, we could sell that. Let's pitch that next week.
How do you how much time do you spend on one idea or concept that you or Clive come up with? And then how do you know when to take something off the table? And then what's the refinement or pressure test approach that leads to developing a deck or a presentation or, a sizzle that you go and pitch? Talk to me before all that.
We're creating constantly, keeping lists constantly. I have lists about everything. It's great show titles. I think it's 67 pages in a Word document, 10-point font, just show titles, potential food shows, potential game shows, potential building shows, potential dating shows, whatever it is, adventure shows. We keep lists on everything. Cleve keeps a list just on everything. She just keeps these lists. I keep lists. And then what'll happen is we'll say, there's basically 2 different ways to do it. And we do this constantly. One is, what's the next big show that we're going to go out and pitch and try to get at least 10 or 15 meetings for? Pitch pushes, we call them. Okay, this show is so good that we could go to 15 places, 12 places, 18 places. We're going to reach out. That's how good this show is. And so what we'll do is we'll say, okay, what's our next pitch put? What's the best thing that we have? And essentially you're looking through, we did it the other day. We had a list of I think it was 18 shows that are, say, semi-finalists, right? And then you're just like, that's the one, let's go with that. And then you reach out to the buyers and you say, here's Cleve and Dave's new show. Can we set a meeting? The other way of doing it is we call it, so there's these pitch pushes and then there's bespoke shows. That's when you're out to lunch with a network exec or you're on the phone with somebody or on a Zoom and they say, here's what we're looking for. And it's very specific. We're looking for, men 18 to 29 who aren't as into sports. They're into X, Y, and Z. What do you have for that? That's different. That's us looking back through everything we've ever done going, do we have the perfect show at the perfect time for these people? And then you just target them. And maybe you pitch a couple other places, but we're basically targeting them. So that's the 2 ways to do it. If you're doing a pitch push, then the next question is, okay, we're going to get these hopefully 10 to 15 meetings. What type of presentation can we put together that best paints the picture? Is it a game? Are we going to play the game with them? Is there a simple way we can execute this game on a Zoom so everyone loves it? Is it a series of images? Is it a series of videos? Is there a tape that we can make? Is there a talent that we should reach out to who's the perfect talent and can join the pitches? All of these things are things we've tried.
Wow. So you guys are constantly throwing spaghetti on the wall, waiting for something to stick, like daily, hourly. You know who that reminds me of? That reminds me of Dan Reynolds with Imagine Dragons. If you ever learned about him or heard about it, he is constantly writing, constantly coming up with, lyrics and how to pitch this concept he has. And then he goes to the band.
The Coldplay guy is the same way. And I'm blanking.
Coldplay guy. I forgot his name. Yeah. But I know of Dan Reynolds doing this because they'll go and perform like 100 songs and then they'll pick one and go, yep, this is the one.
It's very close to pop songwriters. It's very close to comedians, right? Constantly coming up with jokes, testing things out.
Yeah.
99 times out of 100, these songs or this show or whatever don't make it. That's what we do every day.
It's crazy.
Just trying to impress people and entertain them. At the end of the day, like there were weeks last year where 20 million people watched America Says. That we did it, right?
Wow.
There have been Chopped doesn't air as many times, but there have been, weeks where definitely around the world last year, there were weeks where 30 million people watched our shows.
That's crazy.
At one point or another.
That is a lot. That's a lot of viewers. I mean, you guys have a huge show. Are you still getting compensated from Chopped, or is your compensation package typically on the front end and then it's cut out, or do you have like royalties?
Every deal is different, and what you wish you could make money off of is the repeats, right? Like, if Game Show Network airs America Says 70 times, I'm only getting paid for one of those times, the new episode. But the answer is it's TV. It all pays really well.
Yeah.
If you create a hit show, you're you might not get paid as much as obviously you're not getting paid as much as Seinfeld, but you're getting paid really well. You can't be upset.
Yeah. No, I mean, as long as you're happy and comfortable, and you're enjoying your job and you're passionate about it. So what else can you ask for in life? Yeah. But the thing that I was going to say is thinking about how many times you have to pitch to have something stick. And also in line with some of my other guests about just overall life success and achieving your goals and making things happen. Many people today expect the impossible to happen with very little effort. And they don't have the opposite mentality of, okay, this is going to take 800 no's before I get the yes. So let's start working on these no's. Let's put in the effort. Let's go and perfect it. Let's work, around the clock coming up with different approaches to make this business or this concept viable and happen. And then keep going. You can't just quit after a day or two. Keep going. Eventually you're going to hit gold. Like in Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, that book, very famous book. He talks about how many people are digging and digging for days, months, whatever, burning all your resources and energy to only quit an inch away from a gold vein.
Of course.
Sometimes you just got to keep going. And you have to keep
literally,
swimming.
I've had many moments where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. It's too much.
Yeah.
Like, it's just too crazy. It's a crazy business. And there's a lot of crazy people, and as I say, like you are, as a kid, you're taught the F is bad, right? We're all taught that from a very young age, and F is failing. That's bad. It's bad. You hide the F's from your parents. You get yelled at if they find out about the F. Failure is bad. Doing what we do and doing what so many people do, sales people, entrepreneurs of any kind. You need the F. You need it. That you have to take it. You have to go, yes, great. Let's move on. Like, someone reached out to me on social media the other day. It was so funny. He's a writer. He has a script, this concept, and he was like, I pitched it to a friend of mine, and she is an executive. And he's like, I just came up with, like, a couple months ago. I've been working on it for months. I came up with this idea, working on it for months. And I pitched this woman who's a friend of mine. And I'm so angry because she didn't get it. And it's so clear And it's so obvious. And I worked so hard on it. And I was just like, buddy, that's just, you're out of your mind. Like,
yeah.
And he's like, and she's a friend and she still doesn't get it. And I was just like, what are you talking about? Like, that's not, you should give up.
Yeah.
Cause that's my Tuesday. Like, I'll have days where we'll get 7 people pass on a show. Like, what are you kidding me?
Oh, you can't have a one hit. You can't have a one-hit wonder with one effort, with one approach.
I was just like, unless you're, I just have never, I've talked to a lot of CEOs. I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs. I've talked to a lot of social media stars. It's never overnight. It's never, ever overnight. And the only time I've ever heard about just a shocker is Ashton Kutcher, and God blessed Ashton Kutcher with amazing good looks, and he's tall and handsome and whatever. He's on funny. An elevator or something, I guess. I don't know what. I think it was an elevator. And someone said, oh, I want you to be in this show. And he was on that 70s show. That's it. Okay, great. That happened once. Everybody else, like, it doesn't happen. And so people make this huge mistake, because I get this too, especially from people in their 20s or early 30s, where it's like, I know I found this thing that I love. And people say, when you find what you love, success will come. Why hasn't success come? And what I say is, yes, they do say that, but that's not the reason they say it. Find what you love and success will come eventually. And the reason why you should find something you love is because it's all hard. It's so hard that if you didn't love it, you're not going to last. You're not going to get to success. We had hits along the way, but if you had met me, or if any, I went to a dinner party or whatever in 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like for a decade, for a while in TV, people would say, what do you do? I'd say produce shows. But there was a long time, a decade, 10 years of people saying, what do you do? And I would say, I create television shows. And what happens is, I write about this in the book, they get this look on their face. It happens every time. It's to this day. They get this look on their face. You create television shows? What have you created? And for 10 years, I would say, we have a show, lots of stuff. MTV, there was a show, and what was it? And then he'd say the name. We had a big hit show on HGTV. No one had ever heard of it. And then they look at you basically like a complete failure. like imagine, right? The response is, oh, and some people said it, like mostly dudes with a beer. Oh, you must be bad at it, right? Because I watch TV and I've never heard of your shows. So clearly you're not successful. It would be like if you said you were a baseball player and they said, what team did you play for? And you said the Sheboygan, whatever. They're like, oh, you're obviously terrible. That's what happened to me for 10 years or longer. And then all of a sudden, in Chopped second, third year, I'd go to a dinner party, and then the opposite happens. Sometimes I go somewhere and someone will say, what do you do? And I say, oh, what do you create? I was like, I've created a bunch of stuff. The biggest hit is Chopped. And then I can't get rid of the person. Like it's like, there's a lady on my lap, it's like, oh my God, I love Chopped. I've seen every episode. You created, and then you're just like, I'm just a dude, man. Just relax. I just created Chopped. Yes. And so
that's how celebrities feel too.
You get it. I mean, as the creator of Chopped, I get how, I'm sure, insanely annoying that celebrity must be, because I just get this much of it every once in a while.
It's interesting. It's like the limelight effect. As soon as they see that you're in the limelight, it's like the limelight shows, and they just can't get enough of it, and they're like, I want some of this light. I gotta have it. Yeah,
my wife
it's crazy.
Has had to intervene at weddings, at a funeral.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Wow. At a funeral. That's pretty low.
It was weird.
Hey, I'm gonna hit up Dave. I got all these ideas. I'm gonna make a lot of money with Dave at a funeral.
Yeah.
Really? Like,
Yeah.
I'm mourning here, buddy. I mean, come on,
know.
can't I let the guy die and, be at peace let me be at peace for 5 minutes.
It was a weird moment.
That's weird.
It was a very weird moment. And luckily my wife, she understands what's happening now. So she'll come up and say, "Oh, honey, we gotta go."
It's talking about what it takes to succeed and how much effort goes into anything and a lot of time. It reminds me of my kids. I have 5 kids. You have 3. And I remember when I told you 5, you had a typical New Jersey response like, "What? Whoa. You're crazy, man."
Yeah, that's crazy.
But it reminds me, one of them is in soccer. He's on a soccer club. He's pretty good. I mean, he's got talent. Right. And he keeps I keep asking him, like, "Hey, what are you going to do when you get older?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm going to be a pro soccer player." I'm like, "All right, what are you doing today to become that pro soccer player?" He's like, "Oh, I'm on a club team." I'm like, "Okay,
nah, man.
You do know the future pro players are out, practicing nightly. They've probably got 2 coaches. They're probably on that team. And then they probably are on 2 other rec teams. And then they're also going to camps 3 times in the summer, every summer. And then they're living, breathing, and dreaming soccer. And they're probably, yeah.
Was it Gladwell who said you need 10,000 hours, right?
I think it was. That came out when I was working at Goldman Sachs, actually. I remember I did the math. I was like, I just hit 10,000 hours with this job. And I was like, I think I finally get how this function works. It takes a lot of time to master anything. And Gladwell, 10,000 hours. You have to put the time in it. And so he's like...
You can't know what you don't know. And that's what it's impossible to explain to so many people who are just starting out. You're just like, you're making mistakes every sentence, and I couldn't possibly. You have to put in the time, like, and I can help you, which is actually another reason why I wanted to write the book. Just literally because I have in all these stories, in all of these experiences, in all of this incredible success sometimes, and then insane failure, you learn these lessons. And one of the things I noticed compiling everything is that you see the same patterns again and again and again and again. And something that I experienced with Diller is exactly the same story as something Oprah writes about. And that's exactly the same story as something that someone wrote about Walt Disney, back in 1943 or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, oh, these are 3 very different stories, and they're the same story. And so if I can help people to say, listen to this, because these are the same stories, take a listen. This is the exact same thing. Yeah. And there was success or failure, whatever it was, came out of all of it. Every time. This works every time. You should learn this now. If you can, if Dave Noll could write a book and you could read about it and enjoy and have some laughs and learn something, real takeaway. That's what I'm hoping.
Talking about like the common links or the patterns, the most consistent pattern that I've experienced with this podcast and all the people I've talked to about how they achieved what they've achieved in their lives, the most common like attribute in all of their stories is going through a dark phase, rejection, hitting rock bottom, a moment in time where they thought they just had nothing left.
Crazy that you said that.
Yeah, because on the flip side, go ahead.
I was going to say I wrote this whole book. I did the first version of it.
Yeah,
the first draft. What is the word called? I'm not a writer. The first draft to this book.
I don't know. I'm not a writer either.
I gave it to like 6 people at first. And one was my publisher. And then one was I have 2 brothers, my other brother. And my brother, Andrew, has read a ton of business books. He's a reader. My other brother's an actor. He's probably never read a thing, but he's drunk right now. And then, but Andrew reads all these books. And so my publisher got back and Andrew got back, my brother, and they said the same thing. Look, this is great. We get what you're doing here. We get the whole thing. But it's not believable at all. Mm. And the publisher said it in a slightly different way. Andrew was like, I know you. you left out the shit
The
part.
dark.
You left
Yep.
out the part where you're
Dirty laundry. Yep.
you want to jump off the bridge.
Yeah.
You left
Yeah.
out and I was like, I don't want to write it. It's not
Right.
what it's about.
Right.
The publisher was like, I don't know if this book's going to work because seemingly you've had all this success and it's just not relatable.
Right.
Because it doesn't make any, like, no one has. And I was like, oh, my brother said the same thing. What if I add, this story? We had this long conversation, where I'm basically like, oh, you want darkness? I'll tell you about darkness. Let me tell you about, whatever, December 12th, blah, 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 blah. I can tell you that's, and she's like, you remember the date? And I was like, that's the date. That's it.
Yeah.
And so then I added, I took out some stuff, but I added these big dark moments and everyone is like, oh, it's much better now. So right off, I think the first chapter is called The Success and the Failure. And it's just, here's the moments of success, but let me tell you about an early giant failure and what it feels like. So that way, when you're going through, I basically come up with of all these stories, I kept seeing these 7 patterns, 7 things that I compiled them into these piles. And there was a couple of other on these colored note cards. And at the end of all these stories, there were these 7 piles of colored note cards, 7 themes, 7 rules. So here's these 7 rules. So before you even get to the 7 rules now, I describe, here's what I did. Here's the beats and how great it is. It starts on a yacht because I've been on a bunch of yachts, pitching shows. We've pitched shows on these yachts. And that, by the way, is great. Highly recommend. If you can get on a yacht and hang out for a week and pitch television shows, and there's a chef and a team, it's the best ever. So that's where it starts. And then very quickly I say, but this is the dark moment early on where I almost gave up. And it's totally true. And it was terrible. It was like, oh my gosh, like you just you just lost millions of dollars in a day. And it's all gone. It's all going to collapse. You're toast. I was going to call Cleve and say it's over. And I just didn't do it. I basically was like, I can't do it tonight. Clearly it's over. I can't do it tonight. I'll call her tomorrow. And the next day happened. I think it was a Thursday or Friday. And I was like, I can't do it on a Friday at the end of the week. I'll do it on Monday. And then I just never did. And then it slowly started to come back, slowly. And so those stories, the darkness, the pain, the frustration, the agony. Yes, I think everyone goes through it.
Well, everyone that actually, I think it happens to everyone in life, but those who have used that to redefine and recreate or reestablish the direction they want to take their life, it makes a significant milestone on their history and a foundation to stand on that leads to something greater in the future. It's almost like it's a seed. Like you're planting a seed at that moment.
Yep.
And if you wait and you continue to water, nurture, and think about that as momentum and fuel for the future, something great will grow from that. Yep. It's weird to think about it that way, but everyone I've ever spoken to who has a great story, usually I ask them, what did it take for you to get there? When did you almost call it quits? Because everyone has.
Yep.
And you have to get past that. And you have to know. And it's almost like a rite of like passage. You can't achieve something significant until you get to a breaking point and go, something's got to trigger and shift in my brain.
It's that classic, you have these breaks and like a tree, then you get stronger in the places that have broken. And I think
absolutely
no one wants to believe that, no one wants to face that. You don't want to believe it. And if you hit me on any given day I don't even believe it, right? Like I don't feel strong on any given day. I feel like the same, out of control. We got to do this pitch. I had 5 pitches yesterday.
Wow.
I think
in person.
And I was legitimately nervous. Like if you had talked to me at any point in time yesterday, you'd have been like, that guy's lost it. He's over. He's bonkers. But when you stand back from it, when you go, wait a second, that's just one day.
Yeah.
You got people passing or they don't, whatever. But when you stand back and say, oh, you have this whole career here that you did.
Yeah.
That's when you notice exactly what you were just saying. Those pain moments, the knowledge, the experience, they helped you get through that next phase, or 5 years later, the phase that comes down and you're handling it different. And it sucks. Like we've had disaster moments where I look back and I'm like, I made that worse. I'll just admit it. My reaction made a situation worse. I don't know if I could have saved it, but I certainly didn't help it. And then you're like, okay, well, but I learned that lesson. And the next time this other thing happened, I handled it completely different and I did save it. And it was amazing. And I was awesome. And that any great success exactly comes from that.
And I think it's just wisdom. I think it creates wisdom to help you realize
a calmness
that everything will be okay. You can try this and fail. You can try this and no one will love it. And that's okay. You're going to learn either way and you're going to grow. And it'll lead you to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And eventually you're going to go, how'd I get here? And you're going to realize, all right, well, it took a lot of trial and error, a lot of experience. And I finally arrived.
Yeah. And that's
what it takes.
To take it back to that Diller story that I started out with. That guy just had all this experience. He saw the world. Part of the book is I say, don't think big. And it's not, we're all supposed to be big thinkers, whatever. It's because you don't know enough. So you're big. My big, I thought was huge. Mm-hmm. It was like I was Ant-Man and he was this gigantic beast. My big, I thought was like this. And he, in just a couple sentences, in a very calm way, was like, no. Your big is only this, buddy. Let me show you. And I now know, that's because he went through all this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's naturally, I'm sure, brilliant.
Well, everyone,
in a way that most people aren't, but.
Yeah, I'm sure he is, but also his experience and his knowledge and his, mentors, his network, his experience up and down, experiencing downs with the goods. All of it adds up, and all of it cumulatively makes him much more able to sit back and go, dude, you just pitched me a lemonade stand. Yeah. And you thought it was like gold. Here I am going, dude, lemonades are on every corner. Like, what's your difference here? He's thinking empire building and massive, country takeover type approach. And here you are pitching a lemonade stand on the corner of Manhattan. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's all relative. Everything is relative. You go and pitch that show to some poor dude in a village in Africa or Indonesia or wherever. He'll go, wow, $5 million. That's amazing. That's cool. But then you go pitch it to this dude. He's like, yeah, no. Nothing's happening.
Like, I know how much you'll probably make, and did the math right just in his head. Like this will never make it longer than 2 or 3 seasons because of this reason. And he was totally right. And he was generous actually, but he was basically like, here's what you're going to make. And he was right. And to him, that was nothing. He was like, that's not why I brought you here. I brought you here for this. And
he sees your full potential.
Yeah, it's like Disney in the orange groves. No one else can see. He not only saw Disneyland, he saw what the company is now. Basically, he was like, I see it. This group of orange groves, we're going to do this and this and build a castle. and then it's going to be a gigantic corporation.
Right.
And everyone else was like, this is Orange Groves and you're crazy. Like his wife said he was crazy. His brother, everyone said this guy's crazy at every step of the way. And so he put this together with this and this person, and then finally got this person on board. And then now it's the Disney Corporation.
You know, my favorite quote that I coined, apparently on one of my podcasts in the past, that my social media manager brought to my attention was like, you should make a t-shirt out of this. I'm like, no one's going to buy it. But it is basically visions and dreams matter. If you don't have a vision and a dream, nothing matters. But if you have a vision and dream that matters, then it matters. And you can build it. Anything you can think of and dream of, you can create. That's why visions and dreams matter.
The book title is The Visionary in Charge. If the whole thing is like, whether it's your garden or whether you're selling stuff on Etsy or whether you're trying to create the best Instagram site.
Yep. You have to vision it. You've got to have the future. If you don't, I mean, what are you doing? What are you building? Where are you going? You know, what are you going to achieve? Where's your point of arrival? How do you know when you get there if you don't have that vision?
Who are you selling? Who's your audience?
Yeah.
All of it.
Dave, this has been awesome, man. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. What a great podcast. I've listened to many episodes now. Huge congratulations and an honor to be on. Thank you.
Oh, it's an honor to have you on, sir. I greatly appreciate your time. I know it's late there. I mean, it's almost 6 here. So I can't say this enough, but I love connecting with people that are visionaries, and you are a visionary, and you come across as someone who looks at the visualized approach to gold and what can become something and what has potential, not based upon the analytical brain, not based upon what the numbers are telling you or proven concepts. You can literally look at something and go, yeah, I get it. Like that's good. That's a rare talent. And I think you're doing you're doing really good at what you do, and kudos to you and congrats to your success.
Still though, as I said, that, you know, like we have 3,500 episodes and we've done over half a billion in TV production, but there's people with over 1 billion. So
you'll get there. I think you're going to be bigger than Barry Diller. I think you should go and run Disney, sir.
Never.
Why not? Think big. Dreams and visions matter, Dave.
I'm thinking huge, but he's worth like, I don't know, $5 billion. He's amazing.
You could do that. You could invent the next, like.
And he must have more energy than me, because he had more energy than me. You know, I think, I don't remember how old I was. When that was 10 years ago. I was, 40 and he was 70, and he could have ran down the hall. Like he could have ran circles around me. Like, you need energy too.
You've got a lot of energy yourself, sir. I think you're going to be going strong until you're 90.
Thank you.
You keep it up. It's very good connecting with you. Let's stay in touch.